Bandeham Shiguro Shiyatha Parakamalam Shigurun Vaishnavam Sya Shirupam Sagrajatam Saganaraganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shirana Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shivishkam Vitam Sya Om Agyana Timaranda Shakina Chana Shalakya Shakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Gorva Bhistam Supurakam Gurganara Sesha Sambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Veda Nipunam Shirupa Patanugam Govinda Abhidam Ujjalam Varatanum Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Mande Vishwagurun Cha Divyad Bhagavat Premna Vibhija Pradam Devam Divyatanum Suchandabaranam Balarka Chelanchitam Sandrananda Puram Sareka Varanam Vairagya Vidyamburim Sri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Baram Mandetam Shubharam Mareka Sharanam Nyashishvara Sridharam Manshakopatarubyasya Kripasindu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahamaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratavishe Namah. So we're reading the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Hidden Treasure of the Sweet Absolute, with translation and commentary by Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev-Goswami Maharaj, translated into English by Swarupananda Prabhu. And this is chapter 6, Dhyana-yoga, the path of meditation. We're on verse number 37. Arjuna Vacha Ayati Shadayo Peto Yogas Chalita Manasa Aprapya Yoga Samsiddhim Kam Gatim Krishna Gachati. Arjuna said, O Krishna, what is the destination of a person who, due to his faith in the scriptures, engages in yoga practice, but lacking perseverance, proper practice, and abnegation, is distracted by mundane inclinations and fails to succeed in yoga practice? Arjuna said, O Krishna, what is the destination of a person who, due to his faith in the scriptures, engages in yoga practices, but lacking perseverance, proper patience, and abnegation, is distracted by mundane inclinations and fails to succeed in yoga practice? Kachin nobaya vibrashtas chinabram iva nashyati apratishto mahabaho vimudo brahmanapati. O mighty hero, O Krishna, having deviated from the yoga of attaining the Absolute, shelterless and fallen from the paths of both action and meditation, is not such a person utterly lost, like a scattered cloud? O mighty hero, O Krishna, having deviated from the yoga of attaining the Absolute, shelterless and fallen from the paths of both action and meditation, is not such a person utterly lost, like a scattered cloud? And this will be a very good question, because undoubtedly while proceeding in engaging in yoga and trying to fix oneself to become determined and progressing in the path of realization, sometimes one may feel, or one may experience lapses or difficulties in maintaining proper, diligence or proper concentration on proceeding forward. So Arjuna is asking a question, and he's saying, well, then what will happen to a person who attains some level but then is not able to continue? And will he not lose everything? Will he not be like a cloud that's just scattered somewhere into the horizon with no actual presence? Then And etanme samshayam Krishna chetum arhasi asejata tvad anya samshayas yasya chaitana I upapadyate. O Krishna, no one but you can dispel this doubt of mine. Please mercifully slash it at the root. O Krishna, no one but you can dispel this doubt of mine. Please mercifully slash it at the root. So also within this question is the idea, well, should one take to this path because one may not reach the point of success, and then what will happen? Will one lose everything? Will one be stopped and from reaching the goal, and therefore be without any position? So then, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Partha Naiveha Namutra Vinashas Tasya Vidyate Nai Kalyana Krit Kaschid Durgatim Tatagachati. The Supreme Lord said, O Arjuna, son of Kunti, there is no loss for the unsuccessful yoga practitioner, as he has not denied the happiness of the heavenly plane in this world, nor has he denied the chance of the fortune to see the supersoul in the transcendental realm. This is so, O dear one, because a person who performs virtuous actions never suffers an ill fate. Supreme Lord said, O Arjuna, son of Kunti, there is no loss for the unsuccessful yoga practitioner, as he has not denied the happiness of the heavenly plane in this world, nor has he denied the chance of the fortune to see the supersoul in the transcendental realm. This is so, O dear one, because a person who performs virtuous actions never suffers an ill fate. So Krishna is dispelling any doubts that may occur for someone who takes to the path of self-realization, but feels oneself to be wavering or not being able to proceed. I remember Srila Sridhar Maharaj commented about one person who apparently had reached some lapse in his practice of spiritual realization. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj commented, well, this may appear, from outside, it may appear to be that person has fallen from the path or has reached a point where he has become unsuccessful. And yet Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, but sometimes it will happen that when a person encounters a ditch or some span that which one has to jump over, blocking one's path, Srila Maharaj mentioned, well then, Guru Maharaj mentioned that the person may go a little bit apparently backwards in order to attain some running speed to be able to jump over that crevice, or that it's not necessarily that one is given up, but maybe one takes some action and apparently has even stopped or gone backwards. But then again, to proceed, the person sees in front of him a ditch which he has to span in order to get to the other side. So he may go a little bit backwards, a little bit back, so that he has more distance to attain some speed, and when coming to that obstacle, then can jump over it. So I thought that was a very nice example that Srila Guru Maharaj gave, that one should not just be considering that person has become unsuccessful. Because here Krishna says, this is so, O dear one, because a person who performs virtuous actions never suffers an ill fate. one doesn't lose by apparently being unsuccessful. Because just the fact that one has endeavored, one has tried, then one will be able to, one hasn't lost anything, but rather one has gained, even if not attaining success. Prapya punya kritam lokan hushitva shashvati sama shuchinam shimatam gehe yoga brashto vijayate. After residing for many years in all those heavenly planes that are attainable by the performers of great sacrifices, such as the Ashram, the unsuccessful yoga practitioner takes birth in the home of honorable, prosperous persons given to pure and honest practices. After residing for many years in all those heavenly planes that are attainable by the performers of great sacrifices, such as the Ashrameda. Ashrameda is like horse sacrifice. The unsuccessful yoga practitioner takes birth in the home of honorable, prosperous persons given to pure and honest practices. Given to pure and honest practices. So here Krishna is saying, even persons who may perform worldly sacrifices and gain some kind of prosperous position, even though they may endeavor to attain the results of those sacrifices and attain some high standard of enjoyment, here Krishna says that even an unsuccessful yogi surpasses those persons who has endeavored so much to attain some kind of enjoyment. But even the unsuccessful yogi surpasses them. He will attain even some material success, and then the next verse will also continue with the Krishna's explanation of what will happen to a person who doesn't attain success in this life, but comes to a certain point and then remains. Here Krishna is saying, the person will remain at that point, will begin at that point in a future life, but will not have any bad result, will not have a result where, because he was unsuccessful, he'll be punished. No, it's not like that. Krishna here goes on to say, Atava yoginam eva kule bhavati dimatam etadi durla bhataram loke janma yad idrisham. Or he takes birth in the home or family of teachers of yoga who are dedicated to yoga practice. Such a birth is more rarely attained in this world. Or he takes birth in the home or family of teachers of yoga who are dedicated to yoga practice. Such a birth is more rarely attained in this world. So we're undertaking this path of self-realization, and it is not at all, nothing is guaranteed that one will attain complete success. But here, Krishna says, one will either attain the level of enjoyment in heavenly planes that surpasses even those who have done so many sacrifices to get there. An unsuccessful practitioner of self-realization will either get some opportunity, if one is so inclined to enjoyment, that one can have some enjoyment in a better position than one now has, or one can take birth in the home of or family of teachers of yoga who are dedicated to yoga practice. So we also see that different persons, they can also take birth in a family of devotees. We have many persons have taken to this path of Krishna consciousness, and they have given up previous bad habits that they had, just because we remember Srila Prabhupada would always mention to give up meat eating, or you could say, which is symptomatic of violence to other living entities, meat eating or illicit sex or intoxication or gambling. Devotees would give those practices up. They'd come in contact with a spiritual master and they'd abstain from those practices. Persons who are born into the family of devotees, they're also brought up in an atmosphere where they never even have to give these things up necessarily, because they don't know them during their lifetime. And at least we can think of in terms of eating animals or meat eating. Some persons who have been brought up in families of devotees, they never eaten meat in their life. They've never had. And other things like intoxication. These intoxication or gambling or even illicit sex, we're considering that also these activities are detrimental to devotional service, but they're not necessarily killing devotional service. Just as here, the whole theme which Krishna is talking about is someone's unsuccessful, but they're not. That doesn't mean they're thrown down into a position of damnation. They still have some opportunity to continue, whether in this life, or they can start up from that position in the next life. And this is an answer to Arjuna's question. Arjuna's concerned, what will happen if someone takes to Krishna consciousness, but for one reason or another doesn't have success. And we've seen many persons, this is always something of interest for me, because persons are always evaluating, well, is this person a spiritual master? But I've always thought, well, is it just a question of if my teacher is a qualified spiritual master, without me considering, am I a qualified disciple? It seems to me of so much importance of whether I may talk about, is this person a qualified teacher? But am I really even myself qualified to have someone who's an advanced teacher? One has to have some own introspection of one's own worth. So anyway, here Krishna is assuring Arjuna that he won't lose anything by taking to Krishna consciousness. Tatratam buddhi samyogam labate purva daihikam yatate cha tato bhuya samsido kurunandana. O son of Kuru, within one of these situations, the wisdom he had attained in his previous life is revived, and he again strives for success. O son of Kuru, within one of these situations, the wisdom he had attained in his previous life is revived, and he again strives for success. And I remember also the question gives us some idea of this question gives us some idea of what Krishna is answering to Arjuna. One person asked to Guru Maharaj, said, well, many of the books of the Goswamis are considered very high, very elevated, and not for our understanding, because some of the literatures that will actually can serve as an impediment for one's devotion if one tries to understand something that is too advanced, set too high a level for one's capabilities. That will not be useful to necessarily. So the person was asking about, well, if we don't get to read does that mean we will never get to read some of the books of the Goswamis? And Srila Sridhar Maharaj answered, are we atheists? Are we atheists? Meaning, because you cannot read these books now, does that mean you'll never get a chance in the future? Either in this lifetime or in a future lifetime, there's no possibility that you'll get a chance to read those books. So Guru Maharaj was saying, are we atheists? Indicating that if we have some faith in the process of devotional service, even if we're not necessarily qualified at this stage to be able to appreciate higher literatures, and even if in this lifetime we're not very advanced in terms of being able to attain a stage of steady devotional service, still we're under the standing that we will get a chance even in the next lifetime to continue from the point at which we stopped in this lifetime. Of course, this is not to encourage us to not endeavor in our own spiritual practices, but the question of Arjuna is being answered by Krishna in such a way to encourage one to attempt to become advanced in spiritual life or in Krishna consciousness. From a material standpoint, if I take the devotional service, one can say, well, what will be the advantage for you materially? You know, you're taking to a life where practically you're giving more value to spiritual attainment than to success in material life. Therefore, you may never have success in earning much money or having very many nice facilities like a beautiful wife or a beautiful husband or handsome husband, or with a high earning, or in a nice, beautiful house in a rich neighborhood. And people, we may laugh at that, but people think this is something very much to be strived to attain. They work hard for those kind of goals, and then they meet with devotees who don't give very much importance to this. Like they'll meet with a devotee that is satisfied with more interest in spiritual life. And I remember when I would converse with Ramai, was our pujari, and he had interest in spiritual life from an early age, and his teachers noticed a lack of interest in trying to strive for material attainment. And I remember he answered them. He said, "Why be president when you can be janitor? Why strive to be a president when you can be a janitor?" which I'm sure kind of disturbed his teachers, but he apparently had a lack of motivation. And it may have been seen as that, but actually he later showed that he had strong inclination for spiritual life. And I remember even before he left this world, he was ill, and he told me, because he was our pujari he was a pujari for practically most of his life. He was a pujari. He loved worshiping the deities. And I remember a few weeks before he passed away, he told me, I had such a beautiful dream. I said, what was your beautiful dream? He said, what were you doing in your dream? He said, I was worshiping the deities. That's what he did when he wasn't dreaming. But he said, I had such a beautiful dream. Purvabhyasena tenaiva riyate yavasho pisa jigyasur api yogyasya shabda brahma tivartate. Despite himself, he is carried by the yoga practice of his previous life. In his search, he surpasses the fruitive rituals of the Vedas. The Vedas are maybe done mechanically, and one may attain some success in following the rituals of the Vedas. But here, Krishna says, despite oneself, one is carried by the yoga practice of one's previous life. In his search, one surpasses the fruitive rituals of the Vedas. So even one will surpass the rituals of the Vedas, one will attain a higher position just by having endeavored for spiritual realization. One has not lost anything. And Prayatnad yatamanastu yogi samshuddha kilbisha aneka janma samsidas tato yati param gatim. Striving harder than before, the yogi's consciousness is cleansed of all worldly attachment, and he achieves the fruit of many lifetimes of yoga practice. He attains the supreme destination. Striving harder than before, the yogi's consciousness is cleansed of all worldly attachment, and he achieves the fruit of many lifetimes of yoga practice. He attains the supreme destination. So, striving harder than before, one has not been successful, and one recognizes that due to my lack of perseverance, due to my lack of being steadfast in my practice of spiritual life, I have attained a position which is stagnant, which is not showing my commitment to spiritual life. One attains that position, and if one can recognize that, then one will, by that failure, one will endeavor even harder in the future, saying, well, before my lack of perseverance led to this position in which I find myself, and I'm not satisfied with that. So I have to endeavor more to be able to continue with my progress in spiritual life. And I know there's a verse that talks about that even one who later becomes a great Olympic runner, when he's small, a baby, he or she may fall down just by learning to walk. When we're learning to walk, we fall down many times, but the example is that one utilizes the earth. One falls to the earth, but uses the same earth to which one has fallen to push oneself up and to be able to continue. So it's not at all unusual that when one is learning to walk, that one will fall down, and one will fall down repeatedly. And each time one has to pick oneself up, even utilizing the ground to which one has fallen, utilizing the same ground, the same earth, to push oneself up and try. And in the future, that person may be a great runner or a great athlete, but in that stage of beginning, or we can even say of progressing, one can fall down. In our lifetime, we are having so many accidents due to inattention to details. I know how many times have we not watched where we're going and banged our foot into some furniture. How often does that happen? And yet when it happens, one feels very foolish. Why am I not watching where I'm going? But it's like that. We become more vigilant, more serious in our endeavors. Nobody likes to become stagnant and satisfied with some lack of progress. And tapasvibhyo diko yogi jnanibhyo pi matodika karmibhyas chadiko yogi tasmad yogi bhavarjuna. The yogi is superior to persons engaged in severe austerities, such as the Chandrayana vow, superior to the person of knowledge who worships Brahman, and superior to the person of action. Know this to be my conclusion. Therefore, O Arjuna, be a yogi. The yogi is superior to persons engaged in severe austerities, such as the Chandrayana vow, superior to the person of knowledge who worships Brahman, and superior to the person of action. Know this to be my conclusion. Therefore, O Arjuna, be a yogi. So how nice that is to Krishna saying therefore, O Arjuna, be a yogi. We're interested in Bhakti Yoga. Actually, we consider that Bhakti Yoga is the highest of all the yogas, because the word yoga, as we've said so many times, it means to establish a connection. And we're trying to establish a connection with the Supreme. And other forms of yoga can elevate one to that stage of having some vision or having some realization in terms of being able to perceive one's relationship with the Supreme. But in Bhakti Yoga, one is engaged in this devotional service of the Supreme. And how valuable that is when you consider that every person is a spirit soul, and the soul is an eternal servant of the Lord. Then bhakti will put one in a position of engaging in the service of the Lord, and then we can understand these are the actual activities of the soul. Other things are conducted from the platform of bodily consciousness, and one may be able to go beyond bodily consciousness to a stage of mental consciousness. But beyond those, of the level of body and mind, is the engagement of the actual soul in those activities which are the actual natural activities of the soul. What are the activities of the soul? We know the activities of the body. We've heard that over and over again. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. We always used to hear that so many times. And it's true. Those are the activities of the body. But we want to be engaged in the activities of the soul, and the soul being eternal servant of the Lord. A servant is meant to serve. So we're engaged in the service of the Lord, and we'll say that will satisfy us completely, because we are souls, and that's the engagement of the soul. That will lead to the satisfaction of ourselves. So this is our understanding. The yogi is superior to persons engaged in severe austerities, such as the Chandrayana vow, superior to the person of knowledge who worships Brahman, and superior to the person of action. Know this to be my conclusion. Therefore, O Arjuna, be a yogi. Yoginam api sarvesham madgantenantara. Yoginam api sarvesham madgantenantar atmana. Shadavan bhajate yomam sameyuktaramo mata. The best of all yogis is the devotee who has full faith in the authoritative, pure devotional scriptures, and who adores me with all his heart, hearing and singing my divine glories, rendering all services unto me. This is my opinion. Here Krishna says that of all the yogis, one who is engaged in the Lord's service, one who is engaged in devotional service is the best of all. He says, the best of all yogis is the devotee who has full faith in the authoritative pure devotional scriptures, and who adores me with all his heart, hearing and singing my divine glories, rendering all services unto me. This is my opinion. So I consider reading the Bhagavad Gita is what's like what's glorified by the Lord in this verse. We're engaged in devotional service, but here Krishna says, the best of all yogis is a devotee who has full faith in the authoritative pure scriptures and who adores me with all his heart, hearing and singing my divine glories, rendering all services unto me. This is my opinion. Krishna himself says this is the best of all yogas, to be engaged in the service of the Lord. It's the best of all yogas. And along with that, one is hearing from devotional scriptures. And certainly, and what is the quality of that person? Adores me with all his heart, hearing and singing my divine glories, rendering all services unto me. Hearing and singing my divine glories. And Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavad Gita is a song. It's a song. This is a song, the song of devotion, Bhagavad Gita. So this is the last verse in the 6th chapter, and it is considered such an essential verse. Devotees are always mentioning this verse because it's describing how glorified or how glorious is the position of one engaged in devotional service. The best of all yogis is the devotee who has full faith in the authoritative, pure devotional scriptures and who adores me with all his heart, hearing and singing my divine glories, rendering all services unto me. This is my opinion. So this is the conclusion of this 6th chapter, Dhyana-yoga, the path of meditation. And here, in the end, Krishna says that his devotee who's serving him and who's hearing about him from devotional literatures, devotional scriptures, that must be very pleasing to the devotee, but is also very pleasing to the Lord, because he says this is the best of all, and he says this is my opinion. What could be of more importance than the opinion of the Lord? He's saying in other words, he's saying this is my conclusion. This is how I understand. So all this questions of Arjuna, we heard them, and then the answers of the Lord give much sustenance to one who is trying to practice devotional service and in trying to advance in the engagement in devotional service, because undoubtedly this it is not always easy to engage in devotional service. Certainly, it's very seldom in the general world. There may be somebody who can appreciate, but generally devotees are not receiving any laurels for their attainment. They're not, persons don't necessarily appreciate, just like during the time of in India establishing the Gaudiya Math, that was being done by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. It was not appreciated because the general society was considering that we need the help of everyone, and these persons who are engaged in this spiritual practice, their service to the nation is being lost. But it's not really a loss. A very simple example we always give is that you want to nourish all the leaves and branches and flowers of a tree, which certainly would be of interest to someone who's engaged in the pursuit of national interest or in nationality. It would be important to help everyone, that you have to put water on the root. You can't just it's not that everyone will take to the material affairs? What about spiritual necessities? Which there are spiritual necessities for everyone. I mean, you can't ignore that. And I remember that I would say is one of the reasons that Yudamanyu had success in China, and he was appreciated by those who came in contact with him. And I saw that with my own eyes, hundreds of people. They had appreciation for him because he had, even though he's a leader in spiritual practices there, he also had a personal interest in everyone he came in contact with, because that's natural, because he's actually seeing to the very core of the person, their own soul. And if he can understand why some persons are not satisfied in just striving and working hard for some material goals at the neglect of their own spiritual necessities, because we all have spiritual necessities. We have to feed the person, not just the machine. Okay. So, iti Shri Mahabharate Shata Sahasriyam Samhitayam Vayasikyam Bhishma Parvane Srimad Bhagavad Gita Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Sambade Dhyana-yoga Nama Shasto Dhyaya. End of chapter 6, the path of meditation, from the conversation of Shri Krishna and Arjuna in Srimad Bhagavad Gita Upanishad, the yoga scripture of transcendental knowledge, in Bhishma Parva of Sri Mahabharata, the holy scripture revealed by Srila Vyasadeva in 100,000 verses. So, now I'll sing Hari Haraya. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jaravaya Nama Jaravaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinatha Marana Mohan Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Ganadhara Shiva Sadi Gora Bhakta Vrinda Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhakta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Jai Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan Jahoite Vignana Shabishta Puran Jai Gosai Char Mui Taradas Tasavar Pada Renu Mora Panchagas Tader Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas Janame janame more abhilas. Echai gosai jabe braje koilabas. Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash. Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas. Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamudas. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Haribo. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Haribo. Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Guranga Gandharvika Giridhariju Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramansa Paravajaka Charyashta Tarasata Shishimad. Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev-Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramansa Paravajaka Charyashta Tarasata Shishimad. Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev-Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnavas Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Rupanuga Guru Bharga Ki Jai. Namachari Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath, Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath, Shad Goswami Prabhu ki jai, Premsigo Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Vishvavaranya Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Jayom Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmal Acharya Maharaj ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Madhacharya Brinda ki jai. Anandakoti Vaishnava Brinda ki jai. Shri Navadip Dham ki jai. Sridhar Mayapur ki jai. Saparshada Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai. Saparshada Srimad Mahaprabhu ki jai. Shri Koladvip ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat ki jai. Soquel Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Seva Ashram ki jai. Ganga Devi ki jai. Tulasi Maharani ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Govardhan Shyam Kana Radha Kunda Kalindi Yamuna Jo ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Shri Damodar Vrata ki jai. Shri Kartik Vrata ki jai. Shri Niyama Seva ki jai. Shri Urja Vrata ki jai. All the assembled devotees ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.